welcome to a special episode 112 of Soccer Over Gotham. This is the Friends edition. We have a great show for all of you. Gary, what do we have in this episode? That's a great question. First, Gotham is doing extremely well. They have not lost since June 30th, and if you count 11v11, they haven't lost since April. They haven't given up a goal since July 6th. They have a trophy in their sights, qualifying for the Liga MX Femenil Summer Cup final in October. And things are going pretty well. We have a new CBA, some amazing changes to the league. It's all positive. We're going to discuss that. In part 2 of the episode, I will have talk news on 2 sad departures and 1 interesting addition to the club. We will also give our thoughts and takeaways from the Summer Cup. We talk about this 5 candy corn domination of the Portland Thorns. Then the schedule is going to get nuts. Gotham faces a gauntlet of games as they face the Champions League competition as well as a push for the playoffs. We will preview the matchup against Orlando. This is game of the season so far. It's huge. Best friend of the show, Jenna Tonelli, joins us, and special co-host guest, whatever you want to call it, longtime friend of the show, Nicole Baxter, is back on the show. So how are you too?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having us both. We're getting the Baxter bump. That's what I've been calling it.
It is
See,
true.
I think it's the Baxter Tonelli bump that's the most powerful. So
Yeah, combining for good.
yeah. So this works out for our niche following.
It's definitely a niche following.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
this is I was telling Nicole before the show started, this is my first week off in 3 years that I haven't had college or work. So I have finally a fully functional brain. So I just want to be on the record and say I apologize to every single person that I've met in the past 3 months that my brain has not been working. I think it was Jenna, you at the end of the press conference. I've been so out of my mind and kind of a little bit depressed in a bit. You were just get home safe, and I was like, yeah, whatever.
I know. I was like, I'm never hearing from this guy again. That's that's gonna be a problem. But also, I commend you for ever having a fully functioning brain because I have never. So
Okay.
I was also going to say, how could you be fully functioning when you haven't had a day off in 3 years?
Yeah.
That's
So-
insanity.
Yes. So
Props to
definitely
you.
it was Nicole. Let's talk about having some days off since you have one right today. You're working today?
I am working today, yes.
You're working today.
But don't
Okay.
tell my bosses. This is my lunch break in case
That
anyone's
lunch break.
listening.
Very good. So I think the quick question we should ask is,
this is just so corporate, Nicole. You've totally gone corporate.
I really have, and I'm gonna be honest, I love it. So
Yeah.
no one could take that away from me.
so I think the big question from fans is, Nicole, what have you been up to since your time away?
Oh, I mean, my time away, that's such a loaded question because it's which of the times away, you know?
Okay.
But since I was last for real in Gotham, I joined the Orlando Pride for a little bit, and I did make their roster, and I kind of had this moment of what do I want to keep playing? Do I want to go overseas? And then I got an offer to play in Australia, and in that moment, that's when I knew I didn't want to play anymore. It was kind of this situation where I'd always told myself if you really want to keep playing, you will do anything you can to do it. And in that moment, I recognized that I didn't want to do it. And so that's when I was I think that this is the end of the road for me. And I started looking for jobs. And I found by very weird story, just very weird coincidence, I found a job at EA Sports where they were looking for a women's soccer specialist to help with the women in Ultimate Team and integrating the women into different game modes in the game. So for the past year and a half, I have been working a normal job, which has been amazing. And then I just recently moved back from Orlando, and now I'm back in Jersey City. So back in Jersey, where I belong, you know what I mean?
Now that you're back in New Jersey, do you have any Florida, New Jersey gripes about just the style of life there, driving, anything like that?
Oh, it's just so different.
Oh.
When I was in Orlando, I just felt every day was a vacation. I know a lot of people talk shit about Orlando or talk shit about Florida. Can I curse on this?
Yeah, fun.
The FTC is coming for us.
I should have asked them before we started. Like a lot of people have things to say about Florida and about New Jersey. Like I love both of them in very different ways, but I definitely missed like the hustle and bustle of being like back in Jersey, like in the tri-state area, close to the city, where there's some like level of urgency. You know, like people in Florida, like it's slow moving there. They move around slow there, which is like was really nice for my first year of retirement. And then now I'm kind of in this phase of like, all right, let's go get her. Let's go a little quicker. Yeah, so I'm happy to be back and like closer to all my resources and like all the networking I did, you know.
That's so funny. Two of the most hated states in the union, and you
And I love them both.
love. Well, and then speaking of moving back up here, I mean, I know that you did, and you and I have talked extensively about the TST, the soccer tournament that you participated in, and you moved back up here, and then you were able to get another go at Gotham. So just talk a little bit about TST, what kind of made you decide to get back into that for those who, who didn't read my story, and then just, getting fit physically, mentally, and getting back with Gotham.
Yeah, so when I retired last year, when I stopped playing for Orlando, and I had like seen the stuff about TST, and I saw that Heather O'Reilly, Lori Lindsay were like putting together this team. I had asked if I could play in it. I was in this like really good place with soccer where I was like, I still love to play. I just didn't ever really want to do it like professionally again. And so when I played in the tournament, I mean, like we were the only women's team in an all men's tournament and we got destroyed. And it was still so much fun. So this year when the opportunity came to play in it again and it was an all women's bracket, I was like, hell yeah. And in my head, I'm like, I am going to put together a team that absolutely dominates this tournament. But it costs $1 billion to get a team into the tournament. So I ended up like talking with a couple different teams and I got connected to Wrexham. And I happened to like know someone who was involved in like putting the team together and they asked for my help with it. So I just kind of like texted some of the girls that I knew like still played and that I knew were like always good at small sided when they did play. So I got like a handful of Americans and we meshed them with the like active Wrexham players and we lost every game but had the time of our lives. And I think like playing in that, and I know Sabrina and I have been really vocal about this, like playing in that tournament was a really good reminder of like what is so much fun about soccer. And it was probably the first time in my life I wasn't like so focused on the results. I was just like having a lot of fun. Um, and I think that that is kind of what like not pushed me to take this opportunity with Gotham to play again, but had I not done TST, one, I actually don't think this opportunity would have like ever come up, but two, I don't know if I would have taken it because like TST and Sabrina said the same thing. It made us feel confident that we like still had it at least like a little bit, you know.
Yeah, and I saw you guys out there. You definitely still have it.
Yeah, but like you said, like playing it was 7v7, so much different than playing 11v11. So like when it came to like fitness, it wasn't hard for me to get back into like 7v7 shape because I was playing like co-ed small sided all the time anyway. Not the same as getting onto an 11v11 field, which I knew would be the case. But like my first couple practices back with Gotham, I was like, oh shit. Like my heart was like racing.
And you made the journey from TST back to Gotham with Sabrina Flores, and obviously she probably had zero problems getting fit because she's like super fit all the time, right?
She's truly an anomaly, yeah.
Right, right. So like, how would you say like the tournament went for you personally, and just that journey of getting back into the flow of things?
It was interesting. Like, yeah, Sabrina and I are like could not be more opposite on the scale of like activeness.
Uh-huh.
Like post soccer and like me and Sabrina still coaches. She still does her same workouts every day. When I stopped playing, took the opportunity to really relax. So like I was doing like Pilates and hot yoga. And then like when I was playing in TST, that's when I was like, if I don't start running, I'm gonna get hurt. So like my motivation to run was just to like make sure I didn't get injured. So luckily I had some sort of base like going into Gotham. And then like I was doing some of the workouts that I had been given by Gotham in like years past to just try to like get my muscles like kind of prepared for what was about to happen. Um, but like it took a little bit of time to get into it. Like, I think my first week, I was like, the ball was like slipping under my foot. And it's like, there's just so much that's different about playing at that level and playing at something like TST. Like, even like they water the fields so often. So your passes are slicker. The ball comes at you faster. It was like sliding under my foot. And I'm like, this is like what I'm best at is like technical, like trapping a ball is like what is easier than that for me. And like that was the stuff that it took me. Like I was really rusty getting back into it. Um, and then for me, the month was just like about having fun and like making sure that I kept a good relationship with soccer and like with the club because when you get cut from a club, like when you get waived from the team, you can have a lot of animosity towards them and you can question why they did it. Like I always understood their reasoning behind it, but there was always a part of me that was like had this like negative sentiment towards Gotham just like for a little bit. And I think going back in there, it was all about like making sure that I stayed in this place where like I still really loved the club and really enjoyed being a part of it. And so my goal for the month was like really just to like have fun and like take on the responsibility of like being a professional player again. And I have this tendency to like I mean like I like to laugh. I like to like have fun. And I just like wanted to still be myself but also like respect the professional environment. So I think the Summer Cup like in summary for me was just like an opportunity to run around with my friends, have fun again and like just contribute in any way that they needed. And for me that wasn't like playing game minutes. That was really just like being a body at practice, like a hardworking body at training. And like that's really what I signed up for and that's what I got. So it was a really interesting month of like being back in the pro environment. But yeah, I do really enjoy like being like retired. And I enjoy my job. So it is like refreshing to now be able to kind of get back to that and not have to play professional soccer on the side.
That's awesome. And it's funny that you mentioned how you and Sabrina are so different because I'll look at her Instagram stories and it's like 5 a.m. out for the
Yeah.
run, getting my
Yeah.
touches in, going, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm in bed at like 9 a.m. like scrolling, and
Yeah.
I'm like, geez, okay.
Uh-huh. And like there were so like when you don't play in these games, obviously you run afterwards, right? And like when I was in my prime, you didn't just run afterwards, like you ran the next day and you were in the gym the next day. And I remember there was one game, one away trip that we were on. I obviously didn't play at all. Did the running after the game against my own will, obviously, because I'm like, how fit? How fit? Like I need to be fit, but like how fit are we talking?
Under duress.
Yeah, under duress. I'm like, just don't embarrass yourself, Nicole. And then the next morning we got to the airport and I was like talking to Sabrina and she started talking about her workout that morning. And I was like, that didn't even cross my mind to work out the next morning. Like that's just like the place I am in mentally. And that's the place that she stays mentally. Like that is just where we both exist in like this state where we're very comfortable. Mine is in relaxing and hers is in like keeping up with those workouts. And it was just this really funny moment of like, oh my God, like that's how far removed I am from this. Something that was like very typical for like the next day of someone who didn't play did not even cross my mind.
It's so funny. I wish I even had like 5% of her drive. I would be
Oh
in
my God, what a
much
dream.
better shape. But
Yeah.
so, I mean, I know you didn't play any minutes in Summer Cup, although, you did get to play in the friendly against Chelsea, but, um, the Summer Cup showing was pretty impressive from Gotham. No goals allowed. Everyone was playing really well. Sabrina got some good minutes in, and just so, what was it just like to be part of the team with them? And like you put it, being an important person at training and making sure that the girls who were, getting their minutes could still um, play, train with somebody who can trap the ball really well.
Yeah, I think it's interesting and like you'd obviously have to speak to like the current players about this, but I do think it's important to like back up. The NWSL is always used to having practice players, right? Like every NWSL team has practice players who are kind of like waiting around to be a national team replacement player. And those players are very, very important because they're never hurt. Like practice players don't ever miss a training, not because you're not hurting, but because you're afraid to sit out. You're afraid of what will happen if you sit out. They might tell you to never come back. So like we have historically in this league like relied on practice players to give us numbers. Practice players and then bringing in college kids over the summer, teenagers, like youth national team players, right? And I think that of course, all of those younger kids are really good, but I do think that like there's something different about having people like me and Sabrina, Gabby Cuevas, Mac Pluck, who have been in the league before, who like can hold a level differently than maybe some of like the newer kids. Like we have some experience, and maybe those newer kids, like I'm sure, are faster than me, better than me at a lot of things. But like you can't like discount what experience brings to a training environment and like how that can help the girls who are currently on the team. So I think for me, it was a tough situation because obviously like I hadn't played in a while, but at the same time I knew that I could like bring something that maybe they couldn't get from other kids. And they can't rely on practice players anymore because now they're all signing with USL teams. And that's kind of why my assumption, I can't speak for like Gotham's front office, but I would assume that's kind of why they're in this situation to begin with. And they're not the only team. Like a lot of girls who were practice players in the NWSL are now starting in the USL. And so
Right.
teams don't really
Mac
have
Pluck is
those.
one of them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Mac Pluck was actually a unique situation because she was the only one left who had been with the team all year. And she had been a practice player and she did want to be a national team replacement player. So she was the one player that had been like waiting for her opportunity to get into a game with them. But yeah, so I think like yeah, it's just it was interesting, and I think that like I found hopefully the girls found the same way that like Sabrina, me, Gabby Cuevas, us like little bit older players could like be helpful when they were like missing a lot of players. And I think I mean they look great at Gotham.
Yeah.
Like they're by far the best NWSL team. Like take away the national team players too. If every single team you eliminate the players that were gone for the Olympics, Gotham is probably the one team that didn't drop their level. And that's because like a lot of their non-national team players are their starters. Like are some of their best players. Like you saw in the game against Portland, like who scored? Alice Stevens and Yas Ryan. Two of their best players, whether the national team players are there or not. So it was really interesting being able to like see that firsthand of like, wow, these are really, really good NWSL players.
Absolutely. And Delaney Sheehan, who, and this is a fun surprise for our listeners. I will be having an exclusive interview come out with her in the next couple of days. So I think she's incredibly under the radar player who started every game except for one. Thank you for correcting me.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And yeah, so you're totally right. It's really fascinating to kind of see what the USL is now going to do to that landscape too.
Yeah, really, I truly think it changes everything. And I'm like, I'm just waiting for my phone to ring during the next international break. I'm like,
Oh,
they're
well,
gonna
Juan
keep
did
calling.
say, he did say in the post game, stay ready.
I'm like, there's a reason you haven't sent those jerseys home with me yet because you think I might need them again. I don't doubt it. There's really no better candidate than Sabrina Flores. And then I think I'm second, at least maybe I don't bring the fitness, but I'll bring the good vibes. And
Yeah.
I'll always try my hardest.
I got questions for you about two players. One is a Summer Cup player, and this is you got to witness a debut of a teenager. What what were you doing at 13, and what was that like for you to see a player that at that age playing? What can you tell us about her?
Asking me what I was doing at 13 is just like an attack on me.
Right,
Like
on
to
all of
compare
us.
what I was doing at 13 to what Mac is doing at 13 is insanity.
Right.
And it's funny because I have a niece that's around Mac's age. So like the whole time it was like just so like she's a professional soccer player. Like it's so crazy that she's that young. She's
Hmm.
definitely like not your typical 13-year-old. And I mean she like lives, breathes soccer. She loves football. Like she just loves the game of football and she's so happy to be there. But it was just like it was just so like interesting being in that environment with a 13 like turned 14-year-old because I'm like I remember and especially like being on the bench with her. I'm like I feel like I'm sitting on the bench with my niece. I'm like, hey, I'm like, Mac, you nervous? You nervous? And like I'm 30 years old and I'm like, this is a 14-year-old. Like, how could she not be like shitting her pants about going in her first pro game? And then I'm like, oh, you're nervous, you're nervous. Like we could not be on like more opposite sides of like where we're at in our lives. And so it was just like, it was really, really interesting, like witnessing firsthand someone at that age experiencing that for the first time. And all I wanted to do was just be like, just have fun. Like, I just want to like treat her like I want a mom her so bad. Be like, just have fun and enjoy it. Like, don't be stressed. But yeah, it was like really, it was cool to kind of see like what it's like for a teenager in that environment. It's definitely not easy. Like, she's playing with people who are a lot older than her. There's a lot of restrictions in the NWSL when it comes to like under 18 players about where they can be, who they can be around, like what locker rooms they have to use. So I definitely commend her for doing this and seeing this through. It's definitely not easy.
Indeed. I was watching her in practice, and you know, like the drill where you're passing and you shoot the ball at the goal. She was hitting the back of the net like every time. I'm like, this is crazy. She is so talented and so technical at such a young age. She's definitely the future.
Yeah, she's like
Impressive.
she's very, very good for a 14-year-old, and
Yeah.
you can definitely see why a team would look at her and like want to invest in a player like that. Like she's super technical. Like she'll just have to spend time like, watching players in her position like Alice Stevens and Katie Stengel and like gaining some of their like tactical knowledge and their smartness and trying to like learn from those older players. But she has all of the like foundation to be like a really, really good footballer.
All right, one more question before we move on. This is a player that I hope to get on the podcast soon because she's just an interesting figure and she's intimidating, but she's just pretty good and interesting.
I'm
It's
like, who are
Ann-Katrin
you?
Ann-Katrin
Oh,
Berger. Just
yeah.
she's just on another
Is
level.
it
She was
me?
I'm
German
like,
footballer
who?
of the year,
Yeah.
first one since like 1988 or something like
Yeah.
that.
And
She's
she
incredible.
deserves it. She's incredible.
Yeah. What can you tell us about her as just as a person? Because she seems very zen and very cool.
Well, funny enough, because she was away most of the time that I was there, and then
Okay.
before I played in that Chelsea team, that Chelsea game, I wasn't really with the team the week before
Ah,
that.
that's right.
It was just like this, I don't even know how to explain this, but like, yeah, I wasn't really in training before that Chelsea game, so I didn't spend a lot of time with Anne. So she introduced herself to me on the bench at the Chelsea game.
Oh, okay.
And she was lovely. She was really nice. And even like during warm-ups, it's so easy to tell like that she just has it. Like she just has something and it's like the perfect cocktail to be the best goalkeeper in the world. Like it's like her confidence, she's smart, like she like commands your presence and just like you're saying, like she's a little bit intimidating. It's like this perfect recipe to be
Mhm.
a goalkeeper who can like really, really dominate. Like she's good with both feet. She's an incredible shot stopper. Like the stuff that looks like it's gonna be a layup, she gets her hand on.
Yeah.
So like she very much deserved to be named the German Footballer of the Year.
Yeah. And is there anything more intimidating than watching her face off in penalties with her hands behind her back? Just
I
something
mean, you would
just
have to
different.
pay me to take a penalty against her. I took one penalty during my 4 weeks at Gotham and I skied it over the bar. I mean, I haven't taken a penalty kick in 2+ years. Skied it right over the bar. So like
Yeah.
not interested in taking one against her.
And the funny thing is, and I can't remember where I read this or saw this, but I think somebody asked her why she stands like that with her hands behind her back, and she just said, "I don't know what to do with my hands." Meanwhile, it's the most intimidating pose I've ever seen a goalkeeper do in penalties. Like,
Yeah, I also wonder, like, yeah, she's very funny. I sat next to her on the bench against Chelsea, and she's very funny. And part of me, when I hear that response, I'm like, that's a funny response, but is that true? Like, I feel like you know what you're doing. Like, you're scaring the shit out of someone. Like, you're distracting them in some sense because you're like, why are her hands behind her back? You
it's
know?
amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So before we jump into some news, I just want to let the fans know that there are some changes coming to Soccer Over Gotham. We switched from Zencaster to Riverside in order to get some video content up and running. So we now have a YouTube channel, which is already running. And we have a Twitch channel now. So we're going to be doing some live streams, hopefully some breaking news segments. So that means ways to interact with us on a personal level and on a quick, fast level. So it's all about building community here. So let's build it together. I'm excited about it. And putting this together is very expensive. And if you go to our Twitter page, Over Gotham Pod, the pinned message gives you links on how to support the show. So like, subscribe, all those things. Let's jump over to the big news, which is the new CBA has been reached. And the big takeaways is the elimination of the draft, free agency for all players, guaranteed contracts, no trades without players' consent, workload management, and revenue sharing. We're just going to talk about a couple little pieces of that, but like, Nicole, anything that like jumps out to you on that?
Yeah, I mean, all of it pretty much. Like
Right.
every single point in that CBA is something that jumps out, and it's like it's so amazing to me that they that both sides agreed on this because I remember like I was in the PA when I was last on Gotham, and negotiating that first CBA was really, really hard. And there was a lot of pushback about a lot of things. And granted, there's a different commissioner now, so I'm like, I would be curious to know how the process was a little bit different. But yeah, pretty much everything on that list of like formal agreements, I'm like, I cannot believe that they managed to get a CBA that's so like player centric. Like the elimination of the draft, like that is not something that happens in American sports, that the draft gets eliminated. So that's right off the bat to me like the biggest talking point because I think it's something that not a lot of people are used to. And I've like gotten so many questions about this from just like casual fans of the league, like why would the NWSL eliminate the draft? And it's like I think we're so set in like, oh, the draft is so American that we don't actually take into account that like the players don't like the draft. Like the draft is really scary. The like you're so out of control and I think a lot of players get drafted to teams that they don't want to be on, and it just like they eventually want to get traded. So it's like, why not let them choose to be in a market that they think they're going to succeed in to try to avoid like all the other shit that happens after that, where like they're really miserable there. They request a trade, the team won't let them leave. They keep requesting a trade. So it's like, why not just let these players like pick where they think will be best for them and let teams pick like players that want to be there, you know?
And I think, we've seen a lot of talent had skipped the draft to go to Europe or go to Mexico. So I think this actually retained talent in the NWSL in a way that they were
100%
starting to struggle with.
retaining players, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. When it comes to like the USL like Super League, I think that put pressure on not just the NWSL but other leagues on how they recruit players because players don't can go where they want to go. They
Yeah,
can go
for sure.
locally and still get a contract and still play and get minutes. Because let's take a look at Gotham. Gotham's not a team that's drafting players right now. They drafted one player
Mm-hmm.
last year. They drafted one player this year, and they traded that player away. This is
Mm-hmm.
a team that's going to be built for winning now. So I think that it is good for players to be able to do that, but also, gives them more options to do that. So I
Yeah.
think this
I
it's a
mean, and
big
going off
thing.
of that, like I would have to actually like research this, but the draft is not like hugely successful. Like, not a lot of draft picks like really, really pan out.
Right.
And part of that is because this league is just really, really hard to succeed in.
Mhm.
And I think like you'll find that more and more players, because they have a little bit more freedom now, they might sign with the USL, go somewhere where they're going to play and get more minutes, and then eventually sign with an NWSL team. Like I just think that for player development, like I just think that this is like the best way forward. Um, and like NWSL teams that win the championship, again, I'd have to look this up, but I'm pretty sure their starting lineup does not consist of that many rookies or draft picks. Like veteran players and experienced players, like really good NWSL league players, those players win you championships. It's usually not the
Absolutely.
players that you draft.
It's like the Jenna Tonelli, the Croy Bethunes, those are the exceptions, like for
Yes.
sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. The Emily Madrills, like those kids are exceptions, but there's like the majority of drafted players,
Right.
it doesn't pan out.
Yeah.
And like even you can get drafted and you're not even signed to a contract. The draft,
exactly.
like I saw Tori Huster did an interview with Heather O'Reilly and Lori Lindsay the other day, and she said it best, like the draft is an invitation to try out. Like what are we celebrating here?
Right.
Because like 8 out of 10 times you don't even make it. You don't even get a
Yeah.
contract.
I
So
think
it's like this.
I'm thinking of Lebeni Vaca at Bay FC, who's now in a with Fort Lauderdale USL team, was a exciting
Mhm.
draft pick, and now is
Yeah,
in the USL, which
yeah,
is a great opportunity
exactly.
for her. But yeah, no, I think it's this was the right direction, and it follows, like you said,
Hmm.
this is a very American thing, and the rest of the world, even before Super League, was not drafting players. So
Right. And look at someone like Sam Meza, for example. Like she was really highly talked about at UNC. She gets drafted to the Reign and gets no minutes.
mhm.
That's not helping a 22-year-old's career. And now
Hmm.
she's loaned out to a USL team. So it's like, why? Like I understand why you want someone like that on your team. Like I understand what clubs think they're doing or how they think they're benefiting a player by drafting them and not playing them, but really it's like stunting their growth. Like at the end of the day, like players need game minutes.
Right.
You can only be like a training player for so long. You can only develop so much in training, you know.
Yeah. I feel like we could talk about this forever.
Yeah, I
Yes.
really could,
Yeah.
honestly.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It
I
really
also think
is.
that like the NWSL expanded too slowly. There's just not enough spots. I always said that there's the opportunity never matched the amount of talent. Now it's being the NWSL is not gatekeepers anymore. So I think
Yeah.
that's a big part of
Yeah,
that as well. I'm
totally.
curious how the workload management is going to work. I mean, especially if you're looking at a team like Gotham, they have the Challenge Cup, they have the Summer Cup, they have the Olympics. They have the CONCACAF Champions League, and
CONCACAF.
Mhm.
Carlos talks about it. He goes, "We're the team that obviously we won, so we're going to play the most games, but it's an ungodly amount of games. Like, how do they work in all of that workload management?"
It is like pretty insane to me, like how much Gotham is playing this year, and
Hmm.
like it's not good for the players. Like the whole reason that they really needed us against Chelsea is because they have so many injuries, because even these players that are not going to the Olympics are playing 90 minutes after 90 minutes after 90 minutes, and sometimes they're even playing with like these little injuries that people don't even know they have. It's like it's getting a little crazy how many games they're being asked to play. So I think like putting that in the CBA will just
Hmm.
protect them and be like, you cannot play over this amount of games. Or if you go over, I actually haven't read the CBA, but if you go over X amount of games, there needs to be some sort of like monetary compensation, or, you know, because like a lot of these tournaments, it's like for what? You know, I think a lot of the players feel like for what?
Yeah, and I still have asked a couple of times, but have not received any answers about for the Summer Cup about extra pay, if there's prize money, or also why the finals in October and not in
Yeah.
December.
The girls after we won the semifinal, the girls were like, "So you coming back for the final?" I'm like, "I don't know where I'm gonna be in October. Like, call me the week of, and I'll let you know if I'm free." But like, I can't. Like, what do you mean? Am I coming back for one game in October?
It's so funny. That's
And
which
they
is
play
my
them.
wife and my sister's birthday. So it's a
Really?
big day for me.
Well, yeah, what a day! Summer Cup final to go with that.
All right, let's get into this game. So the Olympics and Summer Cup are over. We're now into the second half of the regular season, and Gotham is having, on paper, their best season ever as a club. They are matching the amount or point total they passed their point total from last year. They're the tie for the most wins in club history. So everything is going really, really well. And then Portland is coming in without Sophia Smith and Weaver and Coffee. So they are still in the conversation as a playoff team, but they've now lost Orlando, KC, and Gotham recently. And the injury list is actually pretty good considering it's been a lot worse over the summer. Sam Hyatt was out. We have Lynn Williams was out, and then Crystal Dunn was out. But otherwise, a pretty healthy Gotham roster. And any thoughts on this roster? Now, Berger's back. Carter is back in the lineup now. Esther is back in the lineup, which is a big boost for this team going into all these Summer Cup, these CONCACAF Champions League tournaments. But what I want to talk to you about, Nicole, is this midfield of Martin, Sheehan, and Ryan. They are, you look, we talked about this earlier, but like the core of the team is like superstars and national teamers, however, but those three have always been the heart of this team and the engine that drives this team. What can you tell us about those three?
Oh, I love those three.
Hmm.
As like footballers and as people, I love them, and I think that they're like the epitome of like what makes an NWSL team succeed. And
Hmm.
I remember saying so like last year when Gotham signed all these like national team players in free agency, in my head I was like, how can you take a championship team and then replace your three starting midfielders with three national team players? Because in theory, like Rose, Crystal, and Sonic could take over that midfield. And so my question, just as like a spectator, was like, what is the plan here? And it's like really fun to see that Juan Carlos has kind of like stuck with those three. And like obviously the national teamers, they're very good players. So like Yaz, Delaney, and Neely, they offer consistency. Like you know exactly what you're gonna get from them every game. They're all, knock on wood, relatively healthy players. Um, they're just like people that you can rely on. And the three of them are all so different. They like really complement each other. Like Neely is gonna be like your six who's like covering grounds, winning tackles. Like Delaney is gonna keep the ball for you. She's gonna bring calmness. Like she's gonna bring a little bit of cheekiness. And Yaz is gonna be like your little bit of a spark. Like someone who Yaz can take over a game if she wants to. So the way that they all kind of like complement each other, and then they all get along well off the field as well. And like that is like the epitome of what you want your midfield to look like. And like them being able to offer that type of like steadiness and consistency, it's like that is what wins you championships. And that's why I'm like always rooting for those three.
Absolutely. And in this game, Gotham has kept consistent dominance throughout the Summer Cup and even into this game in the first half. Definitely belonged to Gotham. All the momentum, and Bernina is flying, and I definitely want to talk about her too. But what a ball to Stevens, who just simply can't stop scoring at this point.
Yeah. I mean, so like what's interesting is obviously we like Gotham is one of the best teams in the league, but I feel like I'm like shitting on national team players, which I'm not. They're all very good. Portland, for example, like this is like a really good example of what I'm saying. Like you take out Sophia Smith, Sam Coffey, and Morgan Weaver, and their level immediately drops. Like
Mhm.
even going into that game, I'm like the first half, you could see like this shouldn't even be a competition. Gotham is gonna kill them. That's like what I felt from watching it. And then like the fact that the goal happens from people that were also assisting in scoring goals in the Summer Cup. Like it was just like it was a really fun game to watch and it was a really good showing for Gotham. Um, I think that Bruna is like such a unique outside back in this league because typically outside backs in the NWSL are like super, super pacey. They're taking people on 1v1, they're crossing the ball in, but she's so smart and like she's really deceptive. And I think that when she first came to the team, because I was there when she first got there, and I think there was a question mark of like, is this going to work in the NWSL? Like, people are really fast on the outside of the field. Is this going to work? But Bruna is like such an exception to that because she's so smart. She doesn't need to like rely on this extra pace that a lot of other players do. And the fact that like she if you watch the way that she passes that ball, right? Like she makes it look like she's gonna go one way, cuts it back, and both of those defenders just like go flying. And that's like what she does on a daily. She's just really smart. She has like a lot of facial awareness. And then Ellis Stevens is just like glued to the ball. So like wherever that ball is, Ellis Stevens is gonna find it. So watching them score that goal was really fun.
It's really interesting what you say about Bruninha because I think her style, I mean, she came in under a different coach, of course, and now she's, under the system that Juan Carlos has. And I think her style like fits what he does perfectly with this possession style and her technical ability on the ball and kind of like watching what she can do on the touch line. Just like, I'm like, can the ball stay in play? Like
Yeah.
I think it's been so fun watching her play in the system. Um,
Mhm.
that's all I wanted to add.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think like there's like a interesting similarity between her and Jenna Nicelonger because they're both like a little bit smaller in size. They're both not like the fastest people on the field, but they're really excelling in these like outside back positions under Juan Carlos. And it's been really, really fun to watch, honestly. I've loved
Nice
it.
longer like left-footed service into the box is like
Yeah,
something I've not
it's
seen in this
unreal.
league. Yeah.
Yeah, the way she can like whip in a cross is it's really impressive. And like the amount of crosses she's able to get off game after game after game, despite the fact that people know she wants to cross the ball, like it's really impressive. And it's the same with Bruna. Like you know she's gonna try to trick you, but you can't stop it because you don't know when it's coming, you know? You think you have her and she cuts the ball back and she tricks you. Like they're able to make it work with like the skill sets that they have.
Yeah, and jumping to the second half of the game, as we were talking about earlier, how deep Gotham is and how good they are. It's like Portland is bringing on, no offense to them, like Linehan and them, and then here's Gotham, who's already dominating this game, brings in Zerboni, Davidson, Lavelle, Torres, and then O'Hara. So it's like those are players that are on the bench for Gotham. It's just pretty
Yeah,
crazy, and then they completely dominate the second half, and Lavelle brings another level to this team. She makes
she's
like defenders
unbelievable.
look
Yeah.
silly. And then Ryan hits one from far out because she's given all this space. It was just beautiful. So like, what does that say about this team? Like that they They have players over players over players.
Yeah, I mean their depth is insane, and it's like you watch that goal, like as Rose Lavelle's dribbling, she's attracting so many players because she's so good that it's like, all right, we gotta stop Rose, we gotta stop Rose, and she dishes the ball off to Yaz, but then you don't have the energy to go defend Yaz like that, so it's kind of just like, how are you supposed to defend a team with that much talent without getting tired? It's like it's impossible.
It's also crazy that I was saying it's just crazy that McCall is about to be 38 and just had an ACL surgery. Like you would literally never know. Like
Yeah, that girl is just like she will fight to the death. Like watching her against Chelsea, I'm like, is McCall English? Like, is she like an English, like, like in the way that she was like picking passes off, getting physical with them. Like she was playing like just putting the team on her back. I'm like, at what point would your body be like, nah, I'm not doing this anymore?
I
But
know
it's
there's this
like her
one.
mentality. That's her
It's
mentality. She's like,
incredible.
she will only play if she can play like herself. Like I think if there ever came a day where she was like, I don't have the energy for this anymore, I don't think she would keep playing, you know? I
There
really
was this one
don't.
moment in the Chelsea friendly where she picked the ball off, beat three defenders at the top of the box,
I know
and then got
exactly
up
what you're talking about. I
and
know
then got the
exactly what you're talking about.
foul. I was
Yeah.
like, that was incredible.
And what's
Yes.
wild is because I was warming up on the like end line and I was watching that, and as she was getting hit from like every direction, and in my head I was like, fall, just fall. Like you'll get the call. But she was like absolutely fighting through the shit, and then eventually got fouled to a point where she couldn't stay on her feet or like couldn't keep the ball. But I'm like, bro, I would have fell 3 fouls ago. I would be on the grounds being like, hello, referee. But she's a fighter. Like it's insane. Yeah, it's impressive.
Yeah. And just one quick thing about the goals, it's exactly how you mentioned it, Nicole, is that when Rose had the ball at her feet, all the eyes of all six defenders were all focused on Rose. When she ditches the ball off, you can see all the defenders go, "Oh, we
Yeah,
relax now." And then
yeah.
here comes Yaz,
They think
and
they
she's
can take a
fine.
break.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's
Or they want to
incredible.
take a break. It's not even that they think they can. They're
Right?
like, you know how hard it is to defend Roosevelt? Like
Yeah,
she moves in a way that other people's muscles like can't tolerate. So like
yeah,
her going like this on her left foot, like your muscles are like you're so tired. You get so fatigued so fast. It's like I've never seen anyone as good at like dribbling in tight spaces as Roosevelt. She's like seriously she might be like one of a kind in the women's game, honestly. Ball's
She's
like
got to
tied
be.
to her foot.
I have this random quick anecdote. Is so my neighbors growing up, so they still live next to my parents. They know that I do this, and the guy who I've never ever heard of them talk of soccer ever in their lives. The husband and wife. The husband goes, "Oh, does she know Rose Lavelle?" And I'm like, "How do you even know? Like, I've never heard you talk about soccer. I've known you for 34 years, but she's
uh,
just so good and so special that like you
yeah.
just know Rose Lavelle."
Yeah, she's one of those players that it just like transcends being like an NWSL fan or a US soccer fan. Like if you're a soccer fan, you know Roosevelt, and that I mean, she deserves that with like the amount of talent that she has.
So fun to watch.
Mhm.
the fans chose Ryan as the hero of the match. Do we all agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably a lot of people who could have been the hero of that match, but
It's
I'm
true.
very happy with it being yes. I think she had a
All
great
right.
game, and she's had like I mean since I had been there for the Summer Cup, she had like been consistently very very good. I mean, she even got thrown at like right back during one game, and she was still very very good. I'm like, how can someone be this good at every position on the field?
It's every time I've interviewed her or talked to her, it's the one thing that she always says to me over and over is like, I want to get on the board. I want to notch those assists. I want to score those goals. But I think for me, the reason why she was player of the match in that game is not only because she scored, is because of all of the work that she does to lead up to those moments. Like it's just she just does so much on the field beyond just getting on the score sheet. And I think that game was like very emblematic of who Yaz is as a player. She's
Totally.
fantastic player.
And I think when you go back to asking about like Yas, Delaney, and Neely, I think like their stats aren't always gonna like show how effective they were, you know? Where like other people might be scoring a ton of goals, like assisting a ton of goals, like as a six might have X amount of completed passes that make you look at a stat sheet and be like, whoa, they were really good. But I think those three, and this is like Jen and I have talked about, this is why Delaney flies under the radar, is because they're just so good at their jobs that you don't always notice them. And that is a perfect example of how Yaz was in that game. Like despite the goal, she did a lot of things that like really, really helped the team.
This weekend is probably the game of the season so far. Orlando Pride away. Gotham's coming to town, and they are 7 points away from first place and the Shield hunt. So this is what they call a 6-point game. It's going to be amazing. Just your initial thoughts of them doing manifestations, and let's jump out of here. Your thoughts, Nicole?
That's gonna be it's gonna be a really, really good one. And those are those are the two teams that I have like played with in the NWSL. So like I always love watching them play each other. I think it's like more fun to watch teams who you've like seen in training for some reason. Um, I don't know. I have a really hard time predicting this one because I love players on both teams. But if I'm being totally unbiased, I do feel like Gotham is really hot right now. And I keep saying this might be like an unpopular opinion, but I think it's really, really hard to win the league and then win the playoffs. And it's nearly impossible to do all of that undefeated. So I have this theory that it would actually help Orlando like take the pressure off if they lost a game. But that might be like a loser's mentality. I don't know. I think maybe I'm like nervous for them. Like how long can you sustain this like level of success? But I think it's gonna be a really, really good game, and I think there is definitely potential that Gotham like ends this unbeaten streak that they have.
Indeed. What are you, Jenna?
Do you guys disagree?
No, I actually think that's a great perspective. My like initial like gut feeling was a tie. Like these two were gonna draw. Like something about Orlando just feels so inevitable, but Gotham is also like you said, like on a streak right now, so I could absolutely see a draw here.
Yeah.
But yeah, who knows? But maybe Gotham's the one that takes off the first points, 3 points from them.
Yeah, and also I'm intrigued by like what I'm excited to see the lineups because I think that Barbara Banda is like obviously a massive threat. And so when you have all these center back options, who do you start against Barbara Banda? And then who do you play in the midfield to like neutralize someone as good and as experienced as Marta? So I think that's what's fun about Gotham is like Orlando can't go into their like scouting meeting and be like, all right, here's what the lineup's gonna be because you have no freaking clue what lineup Gotham's gonna put out. Like Neely could be the six, Sonic could be the six, Maitane could be the six. Like you truly have no idea. Tierna could
Yeah.
be a center back. Tierna could be not dressing. Like you have literally no idea what Gotham is even bringing to Orlando, let alone who's gonna start on the field, let alone who will eventually come onto the field. So I
Yeah.
think that gives Gotham like a bit of an advantage tactically a little bit. When like I think I could probably predict Orlando's lineup. It's
Yeah.
been like pretty consistent through the whole year, you know.
So what are we manifesting for this game?
I don't know. This one's hard. I'm a fan of both teams. I really am. I know this is a Gotham pod, but I also have a special place in my heart for Orlando. And I'm really, really happy to see them succeeding. I really am.
It is actually, and they've earned every single like minute of the success. It's been incredible to watch, and it's been a long-term project for them too. Like this is not overnight. They've been building this for the last couple of years, and you really see the fruit of that labor. So,
yeah,
but in
exactly.
terms of
It's hard to root against people like that, especially like
yeah,
they have some like serious workhorses on that team who have been there like since they were last place in the league. So I have a hard time rooting against them. But then I obviously can't root against Gotham. So I think the best way to go is to say it's going to be a 2-2 tie. 2-2.
oh,
Which is
that would
aggressive
be
because they're both pretty good defensively, but let's just hope for some entertainment and some goals and for nobody to lose.
yeah. I love it. I'm with you on that one. I agree.
Going for chaos. Let's go for chaos.
I love that.
All right. So I will be back on the other side with some Gotham FC news. But otherwise, thank you two for joining us. And obviously, you're both welcome back on the podcast anytime. And yeah.
Except for when you tried to kick me off.
What? didn't try to kick you off.
I'm glad you didn't because I had no business being a co-host. I do best answering questions. I really think of some questions to ask. I think
Yeah.
I could host a podcast.
You're good.
Let me put
You
it
have
out here.
the
If
personality
anybody
for
is
it. You can do it.
looking for a podcast host, I'll accept a small amount of money.
I got
Even
some
though I
ideas.
just
I got some
said I
ideas. We'll talk.
couldn't do it, I can do it.
Yeah, maybe cut
Yes.
that part out. I'd be a great podcast host.
Yes. So Jen and I are going to do a Hallmark movie recap show later on in the year. I think we're
Oh my
working on
God, I
that.
love Hallmark movies.
All
I
right,
know.
come
right?
on. I binge
I
them.
love cheesy like romance movies. That's my
Me
thing.
too. Me too.
All right. All right. We'll see everybody on the other side.
Thanks, Gary.
All right, Gotham fans, let's talk about some news. We have a couple of headlines that happened over the past 2 weeks that we have not been able to cover because we have been off and on vacation. So the first bit of news, it's a bit of sad news. It is Kristen Edmonds has left the team on a mutual termination to allow her to go to the Tampa Bay Sun of the USL Super League. That is exciting. What that means for Gotham is that Gotham does lose a veteran defender who acts sort of like a coach on the field. She's very good. She's very technical. She can play 4 or 5 positions. And she's good about building the team and building up your confidence of the team, as you saw with Yasmin Ryan going to take that penalty. Kristen wanted to make sure that she knew she was in the right headspace to take that penalty, and she was, and she scored that penalty. So good on Kristen for those type of things that she brings, those intangibles that she brings to the team. It does open up a roster spot for Gotham, which we'll talk about in a couple minutes. But as far as Tampa Bay is concerned, they are a new team of the USL Super League, and they're getting a coach on the field. And you couldn't possibly get a better player than Kristen to help you build your young team and build a foundation and, again, act as a coach on the field. When it comes to, as a personal thing, I grew up probably 20 minutes from Kristen. We traveled in similar soccer circles, and I had a chance to actually be coached by her and play alongside her. She's an awesome person, so I'm sad that she's leaving the team because she has roots here in New Jersey. And she was a New Jersey, I think, youth soccer coach, Hall of Famer. So she's got a lot of ties here, and I was hoping that she would retire here. She had about a half a year left on her contract, so that part is quite a bummer. But on the bright side, she does leave with a championship with her home team, which is pretty darn cool. So that leads us to another departure from Gotham FC, which is Macy Bell. This one's a bit of a shocking one. To be fair, Macy has been traded to the North Carolina Courage. That's where she went to college in North Carolina. So there was a fit there, and all indications seemed to be that the player wanted to go there, maybe to get more minutes. She was stuck behind a whole plethora of outside backs and center backs, so she was pretty far down the depth chart, and she showed that when she played, she could play at this level, and she's going to be a talented player, so she has more chance to shine down there in North Carolina. Then that is a good thing for the player. We always want what's best for the player and their development. Much as we like these players, we don't want them sitting and not growing as a player and as a person. So good on her to be able to go to a team where hopefully she can get more minutes. She's certainly a talented player. When she was on the field, she was pretty much a lockdown defender. She fit Gotham's style pretty well. She could get forward. She scored an incredible goal, so we're always going to remember that from her. But another talented defender leaving this club. I mean, the good news is we've added Jess Carter to this club, and Jess Carter is one of the best 1v1 defenders in the world. So she is filling one of those roster spots. She has speed, she has talent, and she has aggression. She's going to fit in very well here at Gotham, and over the games that we've seen her play, she's been very good. She fits right in, and we got to talk to her the first press conference after the game, our first game here, and she was talking about how she wasn't sure if she was fit enough, and she's got to work on her fitness, which doesn't seem to be a problem because she made 90 minutes in her last appearance and looked excellent while doing it. Again, a very smart player. She's very good at boxing out players and forcing them to do what she wants them to do. So again, great addition to Gotham FC. when we're getting closer to Champions Cup, which is coming, and then playoffs, we're going to need bodies. We're going to need talented players. And whether Gotham needed Jess Carter or not, I think is irrelevant. I think Gotham is going out and getting the best players available, regardless of the depth, because they've been able to show, or at least the coach has been able to do so far, is give players enough time to develop where they're not being overused and risking injury. Just an example, Rose Lavelle has been peaking this year. This is one of her most successful seasons. She's tied for the most goals she scored in a season. And she's played so far, I think, the third most games in a season for her career so far. It's good to see that she's progressing well. She made it through the Olympics healthy. So she's peaking, she's growing and peaking, and she's only getting better. And I think good on the coaching staff for being able to use her in a smart way to get her up to speed and get her going. And throughout, we started with a lot of injuries early on in the season, and it's starting to level down as players are getting healthier and fitter. So I think that's a good thing to have. And Jess is going to be an important piece long down the line. I think the most interesting, though, pickup of the offseason, or the middle of the season, was Jessica Silva, Portuguese forward, who is a goal scorer through and through. And if you look at her stats throughout her career, she's a goal every other game, or at the least a goal every 3 games goal scorer. So she adds a lot of flair, she adds a lot of pace, she has a lot of attacking ability, very much in a similar, not the same, but similar mold to Midge Purce. And Gotham has lost a bit of creativity from the outside once Midge Purce was lost for the season. Jessica Silva is going to be able to fill that role, hopefully, and be able to come in from the right side, take on players, get to the end line, get the ball across. I think that possibly is the one thing missing from the offense so far this season, even though they're starting to pick up goals. It's just we don't have that ability to get down to the end line and get balls across. We have not been able to do that since Midge left the team. So having Jessica Silva on the team, I think, is an important piece. And she's here to the end of the season, which is interesting. Hopefully they sign her on for longer. And this is the first transfer from Benfica to Gotham since the partnership. Gotham had sent Svava to Benfica earlier on, and it didn't quite work out. But this is the first transfer, essentially. It was a free transfer, but coming the opposite direction. So this is a good thing for the future. This shows that the partnership is working and that it is growing. So I'm just excited about her coming to the team. I think she's going to add a lot to the attack. And then especially down the line when we have to play the Summer Cup Championship final, then they have, hopefully they do well in the CONCACAF Champions League. We're going to hopefully make that. Then a playoff push, a great attacking talent to have for that stretch run. So there we go. That is the news for this week. I'm excited for all this, and we will see you guys next week. I don't know exactly when we're going to be back because there's a game on Thursday. So there's no sense of us recording on our usual Wednesday if we're going to have 6 hours to listen to our podcast before the next game. So if we can get it out early in the week, we'll do it. If not, we'll put out either later on the week or early the next week. All right. So we will see you all later. Thanks for joining us. This is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be doing a lot more of these news segments on YouTube, hopefully on Twitch and all these other places. So stick around. Again, thank you guys for listening. We will see you all soon.